it is the grit that sustains a lot of the long-term success. People look at people like Michael Phelps and they say, well, he's got God-given talent. Yes, I mean, he's got a wingspan of an albatross and he's built like a perfect swimmer could be. But if he doesn't spend the 7 hours a day in a pool every day from when he's 9 to when he's 22, he doesn't win what he wins. Mm-hmm. He's winning because of his grit and his tenacity. He's winning because of his competitiveness and because he is the one that's patient enough to overcome the tough days in the pool. I think a lot of people have a hard time coming up short. And when people come up short time and time again, it's easier to say, I don't have the God-given talent than it is to say, I'm going to try to persevere through this. What confidence is has nothing to do with winning or the leaderboard. What confidence is knowing that you giving your best effort is enough.
Hello, Ben.
Hello, Patrick.
How you doing?
Good.
Talking today about grit, and maybe also known as resilience and perseverance, and probably fill in any number of synonyms in there. Fortitude. Yep. Hot topic. I feel like a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are writing about it. And I know, including yourself, I know that there's a chapter in Chasing Excellence about grit. So I wanted to sort of just get a sense from you on what grit is in your mind, or resilience, or whatever that word is, and how you identify it and how you can sort of cultivate it. Because I think that it's something that a lot of people, in theory, would love to have more of, but it's one of those things that there's not a clear roadmap as to how do I get from where I am to where I'd like to be.
Yeah. So grit to me is essentially like stick-to-itiveness, right? It's just like the Winston Churchill quote is, success is moving from failure to failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. It's essentially that.
I like that.
But here's what I would counter what you said is people aspire to it. I don't think they aspire to that at all.
Yeah.
I think people try to avoid failures and failures and failures. I think what people aspire to is talent. And if you talked to a handful of college-age students and you said, who would you rather be? Would you rather be the athlete that barely has to practice, walks in and hits 75% of his three-point shots, has crazy leaping ability, and looks like they're the most God-given, talented person on the team? Or would you rather be a person that works for everything that they have, needs to be the first person at practice and the last to leave? You're the person that dives for every loose ball, and you're the defensive player. You're the most valuable defensive player. 9 out of 10 are going to pick the stud, the God-given talent. But that doesn't usually lead to long-term success. What that leads to is the studs in high school, right? And that's what happens is these kids come up with God-given talent. They do really well. They thrive for a short period of time. And then when they get to the next level, well, guess what? I don't know what that next level is either. I don't know if it's the AAU team or if it's the college team Division I or it's the pros but once they get to that next level and they're on the level playing field with other people that are talented, and that's what happens as you rise, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, where'd my special gift go? Because it's gone. I think that it's a rarer person that aspires to be the hardest worker in the room, that aspires to, I don't care how many times I get knocked down, I'm not slowing down. I don't care if I don't make these shots, I'm still going. And that's kind of the story of like Kobe Bryant. I mean,
that's exactly what I was thinking about.
Kobe Bryant, his rookie year, came up out of high school, is a starter on the Lakers, and his first playoff series, Game 7, he takes the final winning shot and airballs it. Well, the team steals the ball and he gets another shot. He drives down the floor and takes another game-winning shot and airballs that one. Then takes another shot and in 1 minute airballed 3 potential game-winning shots. Missed them all and the team went home, season over. Now, someone without grit looks at that and says, maybe I don't have the talent to compete here. But people that know the story of Kobe Bryant, and I'm not a huge Kobe Bryant fan as a person, but as a player, it's a phenomenal story. I mean, it's amazing. He is one of the grittiest players out there, super competitive. He doesn't believe there's such a thing as failure, which I love and I aspire to as well. It's either he was asked, what's the biggest failure you've had to overcome in your career? He didn't name that. He didn't name his injuries. He didn't name anything. And he had potentially career-ending Achilles injuries that most people have to retire from, came back from that. It's either you win or you learn. And he learns from every one of these potential, what other people would call shortfalls, mistakes, or failures. Mm-hmm. So it is the grit that sustains a lot of the long-term success. People look at people like Michael Phelps and they say, well, he's got God-given talent. Yes, I mean, he's got a wingspan of an albatross and he's like, built like a perfect swimmer could be. But if he doesn't spend the 7 hours a day in a pool every day from when he's 9 to when he's 22, he doesn't win what he wins. Mm-hmm. He's winning because of his grit and his tenacity. He's winning because of his competitiveness and because he is the one that's patient enough to overcome the tough days in the pool. I think a lot of people have a hard time coming up short. And when people come up short time and time again, it's easier to say, I don't have the God-given talent than it is to say, I'm going to try to persevere through this. Mm-hmm. I think it's, there was a cartoon, which I think about a lot. There's a cartoon I saw years ago, and it's this guy digging a tunnel with a pickaxe, and he's in this tunnel, and he's trying to dig for a treasure, and he's a quarter of an inch away from the treasure, and he quits.
Because he can't see that he's.
You can't see. People don't know how close they are. It might be that one extra rep. It might be that one extra day. It might be that one extra ounce of effort. It might be that one more failure, and then you bust through. It's Thomas Edison. People look at him like, oh my God, a genius that created the light bulb. Thomas Edison, I'm going to get the number wrong, but I believe he tried in the tens of thousands of filaments before he found the right one for the light bulb. It wasn't that he was smarter than everyone. He just tried harder than everybody. He tried everything from one of the things he tried was a hair from the beard of one of his assistants. Literally tried everything. And that's grit. That's tenacity. That's getting after it. That's stick-to-itiveness. That's, I don't care how many times I fail, I'm going to try my best to create this thing called light and electricity.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So that was a lot. The thing that popped in my head, and it's because it just happened. I spent some time with my wife's family last night, and they have a son. He's 13 years old, really good baseball player, but he's 13, so he's got a long way to go. And all around their house, they have this piece of paper they taped everywhere that says picture of him playing baseball, and it has the quote that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Love it.
Right?
Yep.
So one, I just thought that was cool and that was impressive, and I certainly at 13 was not thinking about that. So what I'm curious about is how do you then go about teaching this idea of, like you said before, like a lot of people aren't aspiring to grit, which I think I agree with now. They're aspiring to have talent in the hopes that talent gets them where they want to go. So if you were to work with a teenager, just as a sort of a simple example of like, how do you begin to drive home that notion of it's not about talent?
You reward effort, not results. And that's period. That's the whole way you do it. If you're working and busting your ass, if you're trying really hard, that's what we're looking for. It's Ted Williams. Ted Williams, they say, is the most natural hitter in the history of baseball. He was the best hitter. He could to the point where he could smell the bat after a hit. He'd be like, he would literally say like that. I just love the smell of the wood after a hit. It's like, what? Like there's a smell?
Yeah.
And people are like, oh my gosh, he was born to play baseball.
Yep.
What people don't realize is one of the things Ted Williams did, there's a reporter that came in and said, you have this God-given talent. What do you attribute that to? Or how do you basically is some question about where did he get this God-given talent? And he was offended. And he said, come with me. And he brought him down to his basement, and he brought him down, dingy basement, flipped on the lights, and it was like a beautiful mind type thing. He flipped on the lights, and all over the walls were hash marks. Everywhere hash marks. And he said, every time I came down the basement and practiced 50 swings, I would make a hash mark. Hitting a tee, not a pitcher, not a baseball, refining my swings. And there's thousands of these hash marks. And the guy got it. It's not about the talent. It's about busting your ass. So in terms of the way you teach it, you reward talent. I'm sorry, you reward, yeah, that'd be weird, right? You reward the effort, not the results. Okay. And this is John Wooden type stuff, right? I don't care what the scoreboard is. I want to see you doing things the right way with a lot of effort. If you're busting your ass in school, working so hard, doing everything you can, including extra credit, seeking out all the help and going above and beyond, and you get a B-, I love you. Good job. You did a great job. Some people aren't naturally gifted in arts or sciences or maths or English. If they're working as hard as they can and that's where their limit is, cool. Yep. Now, the opposite of that was my brother. My brother, incredibly gifted at math. My parents had a fixed mindset. I did not grow up with a growth mindset. That's the difference we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I grew up in a household where it was a fixed mindset in certain respects and others it wasn't. In school, it was either you're smart or you're not.
Yep.
And I was not, and it was okay that I didn't get good grades. And my brother was smart, so he was expected to get good grades, but here's the thing. As long as he got good grades, it didn't matter how hard he worked. As long as he got on the honor roll, my parents literally said to him, if you get on the honor roll, because they were fighting with him all the time about working, if you get on the honor roll, we will not talk to you again about how many video games you're playing. He got on the honor roll, stayed on the honor roll, and never, ever worked in high school.
Yeah.
Because he's gifted.
Yeah.
Well, that's...
He knew the minimum that he had to do.
Yeah. Yep. This is the bare minimum. So what are you teaching for long-term success? You're teaching that if you can just get by on your talent, you're okay. Well, that's the opposite of grit. It would be better like, hey, you're gifted at this. What we need to do is put you in some advanced things or challenge you in another way or get you some other way where you're being challenged constantly. That challenge constantly is the overload principle, which that's what creates growth. That's what creates fortitude. So when it comes up in real life where you're challenged outside of school, right? Then you have the grit, you have the ability to overcome these things. So the way you teach it in young kids, or I get this question a lot about, or CrossFit athletes or your employees or whatever it is have your own paradigm shift where you are rewarding effort, have a growth mindset where people can learn these things, not a fixed mindset, and then just reinforce the effort they're putting in, not the end results.
Do you want to maybe talk about what growth and fixed mindsets are?
So
because we throw it out a lot, but if you haven't read mindset, then
it's simple. And it's there's a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck, but it's been so like kind of popularized that it's just a common term now. A fixed mindset is you're born with it. Yeah. It's you are born with innate talents. Your DNA was set up through your genetics to create you a certain way, which is you are artistic, or you struggle in math, or you are fast and powerful, or you are a good public speaker. And it assumes that what you have is who you are, and that's what you're going to be. Yeah. Where a
growth
mindset, thank you. Where a growth mindset says, you might have been dealt a certain deck of cards, but you get to play the game. And if you play the game well, you can get much better cards. It's not about what you're dealt with, it's what you're stuck with forever. If you're not a good public speaker, you can learn to be a good public speaker. If you're not a good speller, you can learn to be a good speller. If you're not good with names, you can learn to be good with names. If you don't have good endurance, you can learn to have good endurance. And the examples of this are everywhere, right? It's like insane. There are pictures of people think that art is like a born with it thing, or singing talent is a born with it thing. There are examples, I think it's in the book Mindset, I can't remember where I saw it, but I think it was in the book Mindset, of these people when they come to this, they're doing a growth mindset experiment, They come in, they say, do a self-portrait. And they draw themselves and it looks like my 5-year-old would draw. You know, it's like the weird kind of rectangle-y eyes and really poor drawings. They take drawing lessons for 48 hours. You guys, you got to pull this up online. That for like 48 or 72 hours, they took 2 or 3 days of intensive drawing lessons. And afterwards, it looks like legit like artist renderings. Yeah. They are incredible. It's like, that's one of the most like, if you talk about like artistic, like people think that you're born artistic. You learn to draw. What happens is people show these bright spots, these like abilities as a young age, and we label kids. Oh my gosh, this kid's so talented. He's going to go to the NHL. Yep. Well, it's usually not what you're born with. It's the opportunities that are presented to you. And what we find through books like Malcolm Gladwell's stuff like Outliers is that it's not the God-given talent. It's that these kids all have birthdays later on. So at age 5, they're almost a year older than their counterparts. At a year older, age 5 is 20% more growth. Yeah. They have different birthdays. Yeah. Because they have different birthdays, they look like they're more talented, bigger, stronger, faster. So because of that, they get in the advanced programs with better coaches, better teams, more ice time, and shocker, they become better. Yeah. It's not about the God-given fixed stuff. Yeah. It's about what we can grow into. And grit is essentially the recognition that I have the ability to do this and I'm not going to stop if I fail. It's basically, I get knocked down, I didn't succeed. I get knocked down, I didn't succeed. I get knocked down, I didn't succeed. So what? I'm still going with the same level of passion and enthusiasm through the whole thing. Yeah.
One of the things that really stuck out to me when I read Mindset was for the people who are, called or considered talented, especially young kids, they get to the point where if they're presented with an opportunity where they can disprove that they're talented, for example, like if you've always been called a good artist and now you're presented with a chance to, prove or disprove that they'll play it safe because they don't want to tell themselves a different story than the one that they've been told. You know what I mean? So It's that same idea of I don't want to risk this because I might fail. And if I fail, I'm not the thing that everybody keeps saying that I am. Yeah. And that's how I've defined myself. I'm an artist. And if I prove that I'm not an artist today, then what am I? They're not willing to take risks. Exactly. So it's that same idea of growth versus fixed.
You said, how do you teach it? Another way to teach it is, another example of what I was saying about the effort is they did another experiment where they took, I reference this with my coaches all the time. They had two groups of students, equal abilities, take the standardized test. And when they handed the test back to one group, they said, nice job on this. You're really smart. Fixed. I am or I'm not. Yep. Another group, they handed back to them and said, nice job on this. You worked really hard. They then had those two groups take another test again, which was 2 grade levels above where they were. When they had, and by the way, both those groups got about the same scores. When they retook the test again, the ones that thought they were really smart, to your point, failed miserably. The ones that thought that they worked really hard sat and grit and grinded through the test and scored so much better. Now, this has huge implications. We're all going to face challenges in our lives. If it's not in school, it's somewhere else. Yeah. You get a call at 2 a.m. that your mom is really sick. Like, how are you going to deal with that? Are you going to crumble, or are you going to be like, I can work through this? And if you're the person that thinks that it's God-given talent and now there's a challenge ahead of you, you're going to crumble. Yeah. Or something that's above your pay grade at your job, something that you don't understand. Well, if I'm supposed to be smart, I don't understand this. Yeah. Oh my God, there goes my whole identity. Yeah. Whereas if it's I work hard, now there's something that's hard to accomplish. Well, guess what? Buckle up, because you're gonna sit and grind through that thing.
Yeah. How do you see the pursuit of grit on
just knocked over there. This is like episode whatever. That's the first time I've done that. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I think it's episode 28.
There we go.
That is pretty good. So, how do you see the pursuit of grit happening on a daily basis? Like, I can see it in I'm presented with a challenge and now I've got to figure out but how do you develop it on a daily basis? I mean, is it not simple, but is it simply looking for the places where you're presented with an option or an opportunity to, choose the difficult path? Or like, how do you make it so that it's not so conceptual and not so like up in the air?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Or how do you deal with an athlete? Maybe that.
Yeah, here's what I would say is everyone in our community that's listening to this, it's called Chasing Excellence, right? We're going to have a certain group of people that are listening to this, like-minded people.
Yep.
Most of us are looking for betterments, and most of us are goal-oriented. Most of us are trying to do things that challenge ourselves. Well, if we're setting ourselves up for a goal, if those goals are lofty enough, and they should be, it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows trying to accomplish it. So let's say our goal is we want to lose 10 pounds. We want to run a sub 3-hour marathon. We want to, whatever it is. Well, I know what day 1, 2, and 3, and most of the time week 1 is going to look like for people. What's week 2 look like? Mm-hmm. When something gets in your way. So if you're trying to lose 10 pounds, right? And you're chugging along, after 7, 8 days, you've lost 3 pounds, you're feeling pretty good. Then that next day comes where something really derails you. A surprise birthday party and you end up having cake and stuff like that. Well, do you then say like, screw it, I'm not going to make it? Or even worse, let's say you're trying to achieve a 10-pound goal, and after a week where you've lost a couple of pounds, then day 4 and 5, you're still being good, really good, but the scale tells you a different story.
Yeah.
And you gain it all back somehow. Mm-hmm. Well, then what do you say? You'd be like, wow, screw it. Like I've been working so hard and I'm not any closer than where I was.
Yep.
Well, that's an exact opposite of grit. What grit says is, I don't care if the results are coming or not. I'm still going. Mm-hmm. I'm following the process. I have the fortitude to stick to this thing, regardless of where it's coming. Or, we could pick any example. You want to become a better public speaker, and your first one does not go well, and your second one does not go well, and your third one does not go well. Well, you're like, screw it, I'm just going to avoid public speaking. Or do you stick with it and push through it? It's going to be, or you're not good in front of a camera, or you're not good at writing, or you can't do a muscle up, or fill in the dot, anything you want. It's a matter of when the results aren't coming, what's the story you're telling yourself, and what are your actions following those up?
Mm-hmm. Love it. Let's wrap it up there.
Cool. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.